Gravitrons. I'm more gravity. Let's play chess. Because this game just finished not all that long ago. There's a medium level accuracy, 75 on the losing side, 80 on the winning side. I had black and won. Let's take a look at what happened during the game. Pawn to e4, e5, knight f6, knight c6, and then this bishop e2 is a little timid, but it has some kind of idea behind it. Develops the bishop towards the center and prepares castling, but the bishop is passively placed on e2. That's what I would say. It's a little timid or passive on e2. And I continue by developing my knight to f6. After d3, I'll play, did play bishop c5. It's on a really good diagonal for the bishop to make action against the king. In some versions, the king, in some lines, the king will castle king side, and who knows, maybe if h3 pops loose or something, but we want to place queen on g3, she can go there without being captured because the pin on the f2 pawn. So this is a feature of most a feature of f4 bishops, and sometimes a feature of c5 bishops and sometimes c4 bishops. Pawn to c3, pawn to h6. It's kind of a timid move. I'm mostly experimenting because I would not normally play pawn to h6 here. It's too slow, perhaps. Though I was thinking, if I'm going to play d6, it'd be nice to have something to intimidate and actually prevent my opponent from putting minor pieces on g5. With the bishop blocked in against this pawn on d6 and the knight having developed to c6 instead of d7, then the pin on the knight at f6 can be strong. Prevent all of that with h6 here. My opponent does likewise, though not in a necessary way. I'm critical of my opponent's move h3. The big difference is that his bishop is already sort of committed to being a bad bishop, and is also protecting the knight on f3 along with the pawn at g2. The pawn at g2 and the bishop at e2 are both protecting the knight at f3, and by x-ray, so too is white's queen. It's too much. White does not need to dissuade or intimidate pieces away from landing on g4. There are better things to do. On the other hand, it creates a luft on the h-file that after white castles will make in many situations for a safer king, especially against back rank checkmates. Okay? Anyway, that was sort of a long-term view of the move h3 and for what reason it's different from h6. Now I played pawn to d5. E takes d5, knight takes d5. Knight to d2 is a good developing move. The knight's natural developing square is blocked, and so the secondary developing square is d2, and it's a good move for white. Maybe. Now I'm second guessing. We look here, right, with white to move. We look here at white's choices. Knight to d2 is not that great. It blocks in this bishop. Right, so a lot of the criticisms I levy against players online are ways that they mistreated their own pieces. So in this situation with white to move, who knows, play. Yeah, the bishop doesn't have a... Well, okay, so going back again, the bishop on c1 doesn't really have a great place immediately to which he may travel. So that changes things a bit. I mean, maybe if you played b4 and then hurried it bishop to a3, you could get something with a following b5. I don't know. I think mostly just I was wrong. Sometimes, though, I've seen where people will play knight to d2 in these situations where the bishop had a great square to which he might travel. It's not here because black has two pieces bearing down on e3. The f4 square is covered strongly by black, as is g5, and captures on h6 is also very strongly covered by black, so it's not quite there. So raw to my opponent for finding the best of what's available, knight to d2. And black gets really aggressive with knight to f4. Right, we're threatening to win a pawn on d3, and my opponent should do something about his castling situation or find some way to prevent knight takes g2 check, which will not only land black a pawn, also unseat white's king from the e1 square, and before, he won't be able to castle because he will have already moved. So we see pawn to g3, and black's just going to directly grab a full pawn on d3, and here we see that white's game falls apart. King to f2, hoping for some kind of matter. I really think bishop takes d3 is the move here for white, and he might just have to suffer that he's down. He, she, or they might have to suffer that they're down a pawn with the queen's. Yeah, that's that. But king to f1 is not so great. We play knight to f2. Simple tactics. This is a fork. I'm going to go up a lot of material by capturing on h1. Now, to my opponents, on the positive side, that I didn't like king f1 so much and certain other moves. From here on out, I think my opponent played very well. I bring my knight back so that he's safe from the attack that white's king is levying against him. Here I made a calculated decision to play bishop to e6, not because I think I'm going to win material, but actually because I think I'm going to trade material and probably lose some in the process, but make for a more open and honest game where there will be more trading of material in general. I'm up 7 points of material, so losing the pawn on currently on f7 after a bishop for bishop trade frankly doesn't worry me all that much. I'll place my queen on e7 and have these pawns on the flank covered quite well. Yeah, everything in black side of the camp here, everything on black side of the board, although it's white's turn to move, it's all shorn down. We're protecting on f2. An exchange of queens would be fine and dandy, frankly. All our other pieces here, pawns even on e5, these guys are all safe. So overall, that's why I was willing to give away a pawn in this sort of defensive, I'm already winning kind of pawn sacrifice. It's a strong move. That's that. Queen g6, hoping to jostle something loose. Then just queen f7, and the queen retreats. Black's going to push up the board. We're not sure how safe. Oh, the e pawn. Yeah, another 4-for-3 trade. Yep. Knight takes, queen takes with check, and then just again, queen to e7. A very direct and simple way to protect black's king. This is exactly what happened, and my opponent knows to evade direct queen trades. Alright, so my opponent knows that this is not for them. So the queen goes to c4 where it's not going to be directly traded. Bishop can stay here and we don't worry because he's currently protected, and queenside castles is very strong. Getting a rook into the game. The rooks are now connected, which is safe. Think of some of the words I'm using now. Safe, protected, defended. And the king might be checked on the c8 to h3 diagonal, but even that's not a big deal. We block one way or move to b8, and it's all good. So again, like I said, white's play after the material loss is very strong. To play pawn to b4 here, that's a strong move. Lashing out with these pawns. It's not like it's definitely going to win because I've got the better run of the material situation, but we have what you have what you use, and you use what we have. Who knows? Maybe bishop b6. That's sort of a standard move to retreat from that. Then maybe bishop b5 to unsettle the knight at c6, or even better, in my opinion, pawn to a4, threatening to play pawn to a5, and who knows? Maybe white is going to trap black's bishop. Yeah, or just barely not. But anyway, this is what white has. In this position, this is what white has. These three pawns. Making use of those three pawns with pawn to b4 is something I admire. It's also chessically speaking, it's the right move, and it shows a lot of guts. So that's all good things. Like I said, a4, continuing with a4 even after the bishop has moved to e3. Okay, it's an idea, right? Now back to sort of from my perspective, trading bishops on c1 is good for black. Now attacking a queen and a knight. My opponent didn't want to trade, so there's tempting moves. This queen f4 allows black to sink in some time even to contemplating tempting moves like knight to d4. I think it's actually not a good move. Oh, look, this turns out to be an excellent move. I didn't calculate it quite to that extent, but I was sure that knight takes f3 was at least an excellent move. No matter how white responds, and then just pushing forward, not with the necessarily calculating mate in 7 here, or what was. Yeah, I wasn't to calculate checkmate in 8 here. I don't normally calculate like that. And king to h1. We find queen to e2. The main idea of a queen to e2 is there's two ways to lose now. Queen takes queen, rook takes queen, and I've got an extra rook. Just about any other move, and black will be checkmating white's king, and some of the moves that might prevent against that also still allow for a queen trade. All right. It was a great game, a fun game. Thank you all for watching. Thank you, Gravitrons. I'm more gravity. Have a great night.